What do you do at the end of the season when all you have left is a bunch of green tomatoes? Welcome to that 1870s Homestead, friends. My name's Rachel, and yesterday I got out. We had some late season blight hit us in the garden, and I just went ahead and pulled all my tomatoes, and I've got 2 huge baskets of green tomatoes. Aren't they beautiful? And a basket of like just blushing tomatoes. And I want to show you guys what I do when this comes in, and some things that you can consider making with your green tomatoes if you haven't considered harvesting them to use them to put food on your pantry shelves. So come on down here and I'll just share what I know. Now, if you're like me, most of us probably think the only way you can store green tomatoes is like put it in your kitchen and let them ripen. I had someone share with me, maybe it was a couple years ago, that they remember somebody in their history would wrap their tomatoes in newspaper and store them down in their root cellar, and they had like fresh tomatoes all the way through Thanksgiving. And I experimented with that last year doing this method. These are just my ball boxes that your mason jars come in, and just laid them out flat where I could nicely stack them, and stacked them, and sure enough, I was eating fresh tomatoes for months. So it definitely does work. Now, some of them may shrivel up on you, like not harvest right, or ripen exactly correctly, but you'll be surprised how many will ripen really, really beautifully. And so ever since, last year was my first time actually doing it. I harvest all my green tomatoes for continued canning as they ripen, or other things, like if I wanted to make some of the recipes I'll show you today. Now, I did take the time to sort them by size, so all of these are the nice smaller ones that I'm going out of town this weekend. These ones I want to keep separated because these I will use to make my salsa verde. I find that the firmer texture green tomatoes acts as a really good tomatillo replacement. So we'll just put all these, and these were washed, just so you know, like if you're concerned that I brought blight in with the tomatoes, I did wash them off before I'm gonna store them. You wouldn't want to store any diseased tomatoes like this, or tomatoes that are split open. You're just kind of asking for problems that way. So let me get all these boxed up. We'll move on to the blushing tomatoes, and I can't wait to show you though what's on these pantry shelves behind me that I made with green tomatoes. All right, so these are all my nice, just barely blushing tomatoes. Like some of them, like honestly, just a touch of blush. So these will be used first. I have enough in the freezer that I really don't need any more for canning. So these will just be fresh eating tomatoes if I get inspired for something new, canning wise, maybe we'll do that. But my mother-in-law and father-in-law still come by from time to time for a couple tomatoes for the week. So these will continue to be shared and enjoyed by all. Okay, well that's not bad. I have 4 boxes of my larger size tomatoes, 3.5 boxes of the smaller ones that I will use for salsa verde, and 3 boxes of blushing tomatoes for fresh eating. So the way I like storing it like this versus wrapped up in newspaper, because I can easily pick up a tray, peek at them, as I am coming down in and out of the pantry, and pull ones that are ripening, bring them up to the kitchen, and just make sure everything's still fine. I swear by it. I honestly was into November eating fresh tomatoes last year doing this. So totally recommend it if it's not something that you've ever considered. And if you have ways that you store fresh green tomatoes differently than I do, so that you can continue to eat fresher, your own homegrown fresh tomatoes later into the season after gardening is done, leave it in the comments below, because I'm sure everybody's like super interested in that. I know when I first started gardening, I would just like toss my green tomatoes, not knowing I could use them for anything. I just remembered one more thing that's on the pantry shelf that I forgot to pull over. Let me grab it. Okay, so I happen to have 4 things right now that are canned and preserved. Let me bring you down here and let's talk. You guys haven't been in my pantry in a while. I do need to do a summer update on it. But what do I have on my pantry shelves that I canned from green tomatoes? Not post-ripened green tomatoes, just straight green tomatoes. So this is a jar of pickled green tomato slices. You could eat these as a pickle topping, like on a burger, on a sandwich. You could take them out, drain them, bread them, fry them for fried green tomatoes. It's kind of like a bread and butter brine a little bit. I'll be honest, we're not big fans. We're just not big fans of green tomatoes, but we have gone through a few jars. So I'll keep using them as I need them. But if you're a big fan of fried green tomatoes, it's a great way to store them, or pickled tomato slices on sandwiches. Next one is, one year I did a ketchup out of just green tomatoes. Now I know it doesn't look like red ketchup, and that's just because it was made with green tomatoes, so it's still got a different hue to it. Is it an exact ketchup replacement? Probably not, but it's an excellent ketchup like you would use on a meatloaf topping. We've stirred it into things to make like a big batch of barbecue sauce, things like that. So definitely one way. I do have a video on both. I know this. I'm not for sure if I have a video on the pickled green tomatoes. Salsa verde. I honestly prefer salsa verde made from green tomatoes than tomatillos myself. To me, it's a better flavor. So I do have to do more salsa verde this year. I'm down to 1 row. I never liked being down to 1 row of anything in my pantry, and so we need to make up more salsa verde. This is a fun one if you have kids especially. And honestly, it is my sister's favorite jelly jam I make. It's a little broken down now because I'm sure I used Pomona's pectin, but it would be okay as like a pancake topping or something like that. This is mock strawberry jam. So I definitely have a video on this, and you basically grind up your green tomatoes and do like a strawberry jello, whatever flavor you want. You could use orange, you could use grape, and it's like a jello based jam or jelly using your green tomatoes as the bits that you chew on as the mock fruit. And I mentioned that in my garden harvest video that green tomatoes is very similar that way to zucchini. They'll take on the flavor of whatever you mix it in. Not as well as zucchini, but very, very similar. And probably my favorite new item I canned, and I have a video on this, highly, highly recommend. It is curry. I think it's called an Indian dal recipe, D-A-L, but it's a green tomato, lots of amazing seasonings. It's a different flavor profile than typical Americans might be used to, but it is phenomenal. We love it. I think this year the only adjustment I would make to the recipe is I would definitely go up the curry in it. So it is great. I will be canning more of this. Again, something else I'm down to 1 row of, and I don't like being in that situation. Other things I've done with green tomatoes, throw them in your food processor, dice them up in tiny bits, bag them up into 2-cup portion sizes just like you would zucchini. You can toss that in just like you would zucchini to make muffins, to make sweetbreads, things like that. So quick breads. I know I often use the word sweetbreads and people are like, what? quick breads. So I'll put that, I think I have a couple videos on that, making the chocolate muffins with my green tomatoes. And yeah, so just wanted to share that with you. I know some people might be gardening for the first time and are curious, is it worth saving green tomatoes? What do I do with green tomatoes? This is what I do with them. So thanks guys for watching. And I'll be sharing a pantry tour video here soon. Just let you know what's going on, what I have left to do, and the status of going into a season of not gardening for a year. Are we going to be okay? So I'll talk to you guys later.